everybody, and welcome to Learning Bigfoot. We have Rooted Expeditions today as our co-host, and Matt from the Secret Vault. Oh, I just appeared.
I'm going to pull him on
He's
in.
a very busy man. He's been just popped off from another live stream. So welcome. Glad you made it over. You're so busy.
How are you doing?
Well, thank you. How are you? Are you doing better?
Very good, thanks. Well, I cannot complain. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I definitely cannot complain. I'm not
glad you're
punching
still
the
here.
wall when. Well, yeah, I'm glad I'm still here because it was a moment where I passed out and stopped breathing. But yeah, they got me back. They rebuilt me. I am the $6 million man. Yeah, so they put like stents inside me to open up my kidney so that they flush properly, so that I don't get sepsis and kidney infection leading to sepsis, which is where we were at, I think, the other day. So now, as I say, when they released me, because they did this horrible thing, which I won't gross you out, where they had this thing inside me, and then they
it's okay.
and they pull it out. They pull it out like as if like you're starting a like a boat engine where you grab hold of the thing, you go vroom, vroom. It was literally like, right, are you ready for this? Cough. And I was like, cough, 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 and it went and just ripped it out to me. It was like, oh. So
wow.
I've been I was much better and feeling much better, in hospital with that inside me. But when they ripped it out, now the last few days has just been recovering from
that.
My nether regions going, why'd you do that to me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Ouch.
yeah, but now I'm literally, it's very easy going at the moment. So I can go to the toilet and it's not too bad and everything kind of feels okay. A couple more days probably won't even feel it. So it's all good. Yeah. And I got my energy back. I'm all energy. I'm fingers crossed when I finish my antibiotics, because the last 4 times I finished my antibiotics, a couple of days goes by and I go, ugh, and I'm back in, and it's like more antibiotics, and then it's like, oh. Now they've done this internal work. When I finish these antibiotics, I'm going to be going, I don't believe this is going to work. I hope it does, but I don't believe it. But I think it might work. But I'm just going to be prepared, and if anything goes wrong, I'm going to be straight back into the hospital. Something's wrong, because I shouldn't be, this should be now working,
Right.
Yeah.
So my inside should be working at the moment.
Yeah. It sounds like you had such a crazy runaround too for quite a while before they figured this out. I mean,
yeah.
I'm glad they finally did, though.
10 years I've been messing around with pain and stuff, and you don't realize it because you just kind of integrate it into your life experience, and you think, the pain is just, I'm getting old, I got back pain, and like wake up with no energy, and it's like, since I was taking the antibiotics, no back pain, waking up lots of energy, normal cycle of waking up and things, and you go, oh, I feel so cheated, because like for such a long time I've been putting all this down to just like, oh, you're getting old, and no, it's not. I'm not meant to feel like that. That is not right. So anyway,
well, I'm
feeling pretty good.
Better. Good.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Plenty of energy.
Good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Working hard ever since. Cause
yes.
We were just watching your other stream that you were on.
Yeah, we
oh, me moaning. Yeah. I gotta get. I'm one of these people. I gotta get it out of my system. I'm sort of. People have said to me like, "Don't do the drama, Matt," and I'm like, "Oh, but people are doing drama on me. People are literally trying to like pin me in a corner and do drama to me." So the way I deal with it is by telling the world I'm having like abuses thrown at me. So yeah, I feel better then. Yeah.
Well, I do, before we dive too far into the show, I do want to give a shout out to everybody who tuned in. Thank you for tuning in to the episode Learning Bigfoot. For those of you that didn't know, we were just on Gypsy Road's show, hanging out with them for the last hour and a half, and had a really good time over there. And we just came over here, got ready, and another shout out to P3 Productions. I can't speak very clearly, but we'll work with it. And again, Secret Vault, thank you for taking the time to sit down with us on our show and talk with us. We've talked with you on the past with Let's Talk Explorings, and every time we end up going off air, our minds are just going like 50 different directions because of the information that you put
Yeah.
out, and your knowledge on so many different variables and your approach and the way you handle things. And so
Yeah.
our gratitude is extended for you taking the time for us and being on our show
Absolutely.
today. So I
Oh,
wanna
well,
say
thank
that.
you for having us on. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and for everybody in the chat, let's just try to have you hold all your questions until closer to the end of the show. If you do see a question that does drop in there, you're more than welcome to respond to it and answer it in the meantime. But it's easier for me to put my focus on you when I'm not constantly trying to monitor for the next question coming in. So just put that out there. And I guess so we just start diving into it. And, well, I would ask you how you are, but I think we just covered that. So,
I'm pretty good. Yeah.
Good.
Don't start me again because you'll just get like and go on for the next half an hour.
we're here for an hour, so go with it.
Yeah.
But,
Don't
well,
ever ask Matt how he is because you get much more than you bargain for.
start talking about all kinds of different variables. Well, as you know, and everybody out there, this show is called Learning Bigfoot, and the reason why we're doing this show is because we were invited to go out and do some filming in November in Florida with Bigfoot Odyssey as part of their film crew. And so we're trying to learn as much as we can about the realm of Bigfoot, which is out. It's not just the topic of Bigfoot, but it's also the topic of theories, outside speculations, different factors that, approaches that people look into different things in life. And honestly, whether it be ghost hunting, whether it be urban exploring, whether it be just general theories as a whole, I think there's little pieces of knowledge all over the board that can come together to help get us a little bit more in tune with the environment when we actually do go out to the woods and we are filming these people that are pursuing Bigfoot. And we've talked with you before about I remember one conversation we had when we were talking about UFOs, and we had a little video clip that we uploaded. And you had explained a lot of different variables about just that, about covering one eye and just watching it with one eye and understanding all these different things. And so have you gone out and done a lot of different type of explorers or things in the woods before yourself?
Yeah, I have. I was like quite a scared kid, and I learned to sort of get over my fears of going out at night in woods, and I used to like walking around at night then on my own, and I would usually do it without a torch because your eyes get adjusted to the dark, and I would love it. It's quite cool, but you got to get used to all these noises of animals. It's usually foxes and badgers and deers and things like that, but. Yeah, once you get your head round the fact that there are animals running around you and it's not people, and sheep can throw you sometimes because they sound so much like human beings when they cough and make noises like like that, and you think, what? It's sort of like you really think there's somebody there. Once you get used to it, you're like, oh, bloody sheep, So. Yeah, I was going to say, why don't I just do a little sort of thing, which I did for the other guys. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to do a little advert, bring some people over. So,
Okay.
hey, everyone. I'm on TIPA TV, spelled Tango India Papa Alpha TV, live stream now. Get over there. See you soon. It's all about Bigfoot. So if you love that, see you soon. There we are. I shall upload that now, and then we'll see your numbers go up a bit.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you.
I appreciate that.
I forgot to do it because I thought it was going to be on Zach's show, to be honest. I forgot. So, yeah, I'm just not that organized today. I've been watching movies and, yeah. I did get a video out today, though, so I've been a good boy.
I
did edit
saw
the video.
that. I saw that. And they brought the freaking helicopter out.
Police helicopter, yeah. Arrested us, took us to the cells for the night, and then in the morning bothered to ask us what we were doing. And we went, we're explorers. And they went, oh, you can go then. It's like, oh, thanks very much.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Geez.
So that was quite good.
I'm definitely going to go check that one out.
Yeah. It happens a lot, though. I mean, it's the way the police are trained to kind of deal with people, and they don't want to hear what you got to say because it would mean they got to write it down, and that means work. And they're lazy, so they literally want to arrest you because arresting you is exciting, but paperwork is not exciting.
It's not
Arresting you is exciting, but paperwork isn't exciting. Yeah. So you must be arrested because it can't be bothered to ask you what you're doing. Because that would mean writing it down, and then they could let you go. No, they want to arrest you because that's fun. So
Well,
yeah.
they just wanted to go for a helicopter ride, and
Yeah.
we were the best excuse to do it.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't got the helicopter out in a while. This is a good time.
I
Somebody's on
know,
the roof. Let's go
exactly.
see who it is.
Matt's on his way.
Yeah.
Get the helicopter warmed up. Well, again, going back into the topic about going out in the woods and doing exploring, we also understand that a lot of it has to do with psychology of the people that are actually exploring and pursuing and doing things along these lines. Again, we're brought in to help with the camera crew, so we're going to be filming the researchers and everybody while they're doing what they do, and we're going to be focusing on them. But again, I still think having some idea of certain triggers, certain structures, things along those lines, definitely will help us when we're in the filming process. But I think also understanding the psychology behind doing research, whether it be Bigfoot, whether it be anything, um, the approach that these researchers take as far as what they're trying to accomplish. Are they trying to prove that it exists? Are they just trying to show certain patterns that they have accumulated and put together? Are they trying to show, hey, there's a footprint in the ground? Um, but understanding the psychology of being around a bunch of people that you really don't know, being in a place that you really don't know, and worrying about, other environmental issues, like you were mentioning, animals and other creatures that live in that particular area, and safety on top of that. Um, we're trying to really gather as much preparation as we can so we know that we're coming into it safe. So, with that being said, going into unknown woods and things like that, what advice would you give us as far as steps we should do ahead of time to be a little more prepared when we actually get there?
Well, I think if you're walking around safety boots for a start, I mean, you don't know what you're stepping on if when you're walking in the dark, so you need good boots. Trainers can be comfortable and light, but they don't provide much protection. So, I mean, I always say, like, safety boots minimum. Um, Certainly out in the woodlands, because of where you are, and we get this as a problem as well. Things can bite you, and there are things that like Lyme disease. So you probably want to get. You don't want to be wearing shorts, even though it's going to make it hot for you. Yeah, don't be wearing shorts and things walking through woodlands and grasses and things like that, because you won't realize you'll feel something scratch you and you'll just think, oh, I just scratched myself on a tree. And it's not, it's something attached itself to you and it's sucking your blood and things like that. So I would just, go for, like wearing protection, basically. When I walk the dog, I have to wear a hoodie and trousers because I get bitten to death otherwise. So, I mean, just little things like that before you even start researching for comfort reasons, I would cover yourself up so you don't get bitten to death. It might be a bit hot, but it's better to do that than anything else. I mean, torch wise, torches are good to see with, but unfortunately, torches attract lots of flies. So sometimes I prefer to keep the torchlight dim, or I prefer to turn the torchlight off and try and use my eyes, which you can do in general terrain, but maybe not through a thick forest. But it's one of those sorts of things, really. It's going to attract the flies. It's a real pain in the bum, and so that's another thing. I mean, just walking around in the dark. Be aware that your torchlights probably are going to attract people. I mean, it depends where you are in the UK. If you're walking around somewhere with torchlights, it's going to attract somebody. So they'll probably home in on where you are. So, you're going to end up, somebody's going to come and want to know what you're doing. If you set up a camp And I always expect somebody to just turn up like, oh, what's going on then? What's going on? So you've got to expect people to turn up as well. So, don't go leaving stuff lying around, expensive equipment that, whilst you're chatting over here, somebody might be walking off with over there. So, yeah, little things like that. But specifically with Bigfoot, I've never gone looking for a Bigfoot. I'm more a sky watcher, so we tend to set up on tops of hills with chairs and make a fire or something like that. And fire is a pretty good way of keeping the flies away. They don't go for fire; they just seem to go for lights and torch lights and things like that. But they stay away from fires. So yeah, if you're trying to keep warm and you have the ability. A big fan as well. Like I don't know whether you've got power where you are, but a big fan blowing the smoke away from you is good, because no matter what you do when you're sitting around a fire, I found over sky watching, you put your chair here, and the smoke comes around to you. You put your chair around there, and the smoke comes around to you. So you always continually smoke. So I mean, I saw a great trick that some people showed me once when I was at a sort of like a campfire thing, and they had a huge fan, like about yay big, and they had electric, and they were using it to just blow the smoke continually away from them. So they're getting all the heat, but they weren't getting any of the smoke. So that's a good way to kind of, spend time comfortably, if you're going to go and do stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, it's a good one. I'd never seen it before. They had I said this is like Vietnam, because they had like a green camouflage thing behind them, and they had the fire out the front and just a fan. We were all just sitting there around it, and we never had a piece of smoke come towards us. It was amazing. It's like the best campfire ever, because it's always getting in your eyes and distracting you a little bit. So yeah.
We're gonna have to do a fire pit in the backyard
just to try it. Yeah.
Yeah. Get one of those big stand up fans, big things. But
yeah.
But
I mean, recorders on each person at all times. And I think from a point of view of evidence, because people see things differently, and one person will interpret it one way, one person will interpret it the other way. What you get when you sometimes talk to each other is you cross-contaminate. So you go, are you seeing that? And then the other person goes, I kind of am, yeah. And then they start locking on to what you say you're seeing, and then they are kind of seeing the same thing. And then you're just cross-confirming with each other that you're seeing the same thing, What could be kind of interesting with like ghost hunts and various things like that is that if you see something, you can write it down or make a note, but don't confer with the others, and then check your notes later and see where they match. Because the problem with cross-contamination is everyone's going to start saying, oh yeah, I see it. And it's like, it's interesting from an evidence point of view to see if your notes match without talking to each other. That's just something, as a possibility. But I think each person should have a camera, or each person should have a tape recorder, maybe a notepad, and
That's what Gary said on the last show. He was saying that it's very important to have a pen and paper.
Yeah.
That's the P3 Productions.
Yeah.
Well, this event we've been invited to. It is a huge event. I mean, if I understand right, there's probably about 150 researchers going out there. And a camera crew of 5 to 6 people, or 5 to 6 smaller groups that is going to be filming the different camps and things. So this is a highly planned out, high group thing that they're putting together. So there's going to be multiple campsites within the proximity, and then they're all going to be conducting their research however they conduct it. We're still trying to find out more about the details behind that. But so it's a big event. It is something that they've done once already. Zach, do you remember how long ago they did their last one?
Oh, what was about? Yeah, no, it wasn't that long ago. Let's say 3-4 months ago.
Oh, really? I thought it was longer.
I think so. I mean, unless time has really flown by, but I mean, it didn't seem like it was that long ago.
Okay.
Bigfoot Annan, how long was how long ago was that when they did the 168? It didn't seem like it was. It just seemed like it wasn't that long ago.
Okay.
So I know he already started planning to go back out there in November. So
Oh, okay.
So the reason why we're trying to learn as much as we can is one of the guys who is coordinating this whole thing, Gary Arnold. He's a gentleman who had an experience where he felt like where he came face to face with one, and he wasn't pursuing it. He wasn't researching it. He used to go hunting all the time in the woods. Bigfoot was never really even a blip on his radar. Until this moment when he had an encounter with one, and it actually created a lot of PTSD with him. He couldn't go into the woods anymore. He couldn't go hunting anymore, and for a good few years, he wouldn't have anything to do with it. And then he started putting his organization together, and it was more of talking to other individuals who had similar encounters that had the same reaction, that it created fear. People wouldn't want to go back into the woods, and they didn't want to. It just created a lot of fear, and his focus was more on interviewing people that had encounters and how it affected them and everything else. And he started going from there and started wanting to do documentaries and things along these lines, and starts talking to a lot of researchers and stuff like that. And that's how the 168 came about. Is he wants to document the researchers while the researchers are going out trying to document Bigfoot. So it's a unique structure of how it's being put together, and that's why he wants us to film the researchers, not necessarily trying to film Bigfoot. So with that being kept in mind as well, a lot of things that we hear from a lot of people that actually have had an encounter is one of the scariest things that they've ever had happen in their life. And that raises more questions of, they say that people always want to go out and explore and pursue Bigfoot. They want to have that encounter, but after that encounter happens, they say you do not want to have that encounter anymore. So psychologically, it does a lot to people that have actually had the face-to-face with them. And
I think the more that you kind of battle that and go back and back and back, the more that you're going to kind of get over that, though. I mean, I must say that, like, going out and making crop circles and things and having weird experiences, some of it shook me initially, and then I've gone back thinking, no, I want this. I want the encounter. And I mean, I've actually gone out and done stuff on my own, walked through the crop fields at night, heard all sorts of stuff going on. And you get to the point. I think if it feels okay, you go, bring it on. If it doesn't feel right inside, then you should probably follow your gut. There might be a good reason for it, But if it feels okay, I'm kind of like at this point now where I will, I'm like, I would walk up to something. I would try and walk towards the UFO. I'm not going to run away. If I see something, I'm going to walk towards it. But I think for anyone first time, because a lot of people, it's like, oh, this is good fun, isn't it? It's a good social thing. I wonder if it's real. Ha 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 ha. Boom, something happens. Right. Suddenly, your life has just changed. That's it. It's now a whole different ballpark. And, I think people are kind of like, they're reevaluating everything inside themselves. And they're going, do I really want to come that close to this thing after that? And I think you have to say, well, do I or don't I? I mean, at the end of the day, I think from what I understand about the Bigfoots is they know where you are long before you ever get to see them. They almost show themselves to you. It's almost like as if they're teasingly showing you themselves. So if they wanted to prey on us and do something bad, they would have easily been able to do it. So I would say on that basis alone, people shouldn't have to worry so much. And it's more about the more time you would spend out there, the more chances you're going to get to see. And the more that if the Bigfoot get used to you and spot you, and if you learn the sounds they're making and mimic them, like I love mimicking owls, I love that. I walk out, I hear an owl, I mimic it back. and then it flies different places, and then it makes another sound. But they fly around you, you know, and they kind of like, who's this new person? Who's this? But it's the same thing with, like, I would imagine with like a Bigfoot, you know, if you're hearing weird sounds, record them, play them back, you know. So if you hear a strange sound, try and play it back. That's why it would be good to have good sound equipment. But if you haven't got it, you could mimic it, and I bet you that would pique the interest of an intelligent creature like a Bigfoot, hearing you trying to mimic its sound back. They would be like, you trying to mimic me? It's just such a basic instinct, isn't it? It's like, you're mimicking me. And I would think that any creature that was curious would kind of want to would probably try and get close to you, especially if it knew that it was in charge. It could get lap rings around you, you know. It would be kind of like, I'll give you a try, you know, see what's happening. Whereas just people just hanging out, just making noise, listening to music, chatting, you know, Bigfoot's going to be like, yeah, what are they up to over there? You know, it may stay away. But if you're on your own quietly, or in a couple of you walking quietly, listening, I think that something might make a noise, and if you hear it, you should mimic it back. Unless you know what it is. If you know, like, it's a deer or a, you know, bear or badgers, or you've got a lot more wildlife over there than we have here that would make different noises. But get used to those noises. But if you hear something unusual, it's going to be hard to record it, but mimic it back, I would say. You know.
Absolutely. From what we've been hearing and from what we've been gathering, it does seem like almost all the indications point to they're highly intelligent. They're very stealth. Their stealth is second to none, and their intellect is just very high. And they could actually coordinate to have one do a distraction while another one's circling around behind. And they're very tactical in a lot of different ways as well. And we have heard that you will not find a Bigfoot will find you.
Yes.
And so a lot of the people from what I understand, a lot of people that have been interviewed about this before in the past weren't even pursuing a Bigfoot. They were hiking on a trail, or they were out hunting, or they were doing other things, and they were going to regular spots. You know, I've hunted here for the last 20 years, and I never had anything happen, but there was that one time when I was there off season hunting a different type of animal, and something didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know, things along those lines. So, I mean, if they're presenting themselves to people that aren't even pursuing it or aren't even thinking about it, it kind of raises the question of why did they present it, other than they became familiar with your habits, they became familiar with what you were there to do. And as long as you're not threatening them or threatening their environment, they won't even mess with you. But if they feel like you're threatening something, then they'll make their presence known. The level of stealth that we've heard, though, is really hard to comprehend, because considering the sizes that we've been told they are is anywhere from 7 to 8 foot to quite a bit larger.
I can't. I think it was it 10 or 12 foot? The last 10 feet. I think it was 10 feet.
And for something that large to move quietly through the woods, how do you think they pull that off?
Well, they're obviously doing it with their feet, so they probably have very good tactile sense. And I would imagine it's much like if we put our feet down and we're actually sort of sensing what you were touching before you put pressure on it. You know, it's a lot safer than just going clomp, 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 and then slip, clomp, you know. But if you actually making contact, it's almost like, you know, touching a piece of wood, touching a stone, and then you can move your foot slightly to the left because you don't want to press down on that stone. It's kind of like, it's probably a very fluid, almost subconscious type of action, I would imagine, for that sort of creature to navigate quietly. I mean, to be honest, I've been surprised with how quietly deer walk through forests.
Yeah.
and
true.
occasionally you hear a crack, but they're very stealthy, very stealthy. So
And for
yeah.
being in their own environment. Again, we were talking over on the Gypsy Roads channel a little bit ago, and they were talking about they memorize their surrounding. One of the guests that was on the show was in the military, and he was talking about where he came from, the environment he was in. They plant bombs everywhere, so it could be underneath a piece of a rain gutter, or it could be inside of a can because they know Americans will walk down the road and kick a can. So they put bombs all over the place, and their example was that even for things like Bigfoot or however you want to refer to it as, if you go into the woods and you set up a trail cam on a tree, they're going to notice that because something is different in their environment, that something's there that shouldn't be there. Or if you set up camp and, like you're saying, a campfire, the smoke, they're going to smell the smoke and they're
Right.
going to know that somebody's coming from that direction. I'm wondering if it even goes as far as to wearing cologne or perfume or anything like that, if they really hone in on those smells as well. Because I could see their sense and everything is just so heightened compared to what we have. I mean, we look at dogs and we look at things dogs can pick up on, and they've been, what's the word I'm looking for? Raised as pets.
Domesticated?
Yeah, they've been domesticated. And if there are creatures that big that are out there in the forest that haven't really been detected, like deers or bears or anything else, there's still a mystery that people don't know. It really kind of makes you wonder how they can have stayed off the radar for this long, considering everything that we've done with technology, our drones, our satellites, everything else that we have at our disposal to track every inch of the planet. How have they still been able to hide from us?
Well, it's interesting you say about sort of domesticated dogs, and some of them, have great sniffing senses, so they can sniff trails, and some animals memorize trails, so they can almost kind of instinctively walk along a pathway, and they kind of know what's there. They almost know, like, to you or I, we would never think of like memorizing every footstep, but somebody who's blind, for example, would they're taught and trained. Every footstep is very careful. It's a sensory thing, whereas we are just looking forwards and just going, feet move forward, bang, 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 bang. Somebody who is trained, to navigate because they're blind, they can learn vast distances, cross roads, learn how many steps down a road and take a right, da 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 da, and they know their way around, even though they can't see. They can navigate by knowing the pathways they have to take, and they're kind of very carefully sensing their way along. But the whole way they memorize something is completely different. It's not visual; it's by timing, and sensation, and maybe smell, maybe even like hearing noises. There's a certain noise when you get to this street corner and things like that. But I mean, animals, I think, would do exactly the same thing. They've got vast capacity to remember huge areas that they hunt in, and they've got their own little trails, and it's not necessarily random, or they're just like randomly going around. You'll find that they take the same paths again and again and again, and the hunters, the wolves and things, will chase deer down on these same said paths. So it's like a lot of creatures use paths that we don't necessarily see. They may not be well trodden, and I mean, at night maybe they've got good night vision, better than ours. Dogs certainly have. They can see in the dark much better than we can. Cats can.
Yeah.
So whereas we're walking along at night and we're seeing certain color ranges, I mean, it's possible that the Bigfoot sees a different color range, and it may make certain things more obvious that to us are not necessarily so obvious.
So,
So
it's a good thing you say that, because Gary from P3 Productions on the last show was talking about how dogs can see your aura, and it's a good possibility that these things could see our aura. So, and they could see us, from far off before we could even get close to make out what's going on with them.
Right.
So yeah,
I mean,
that makes
there's so many creatures. I mean, we assume they're close to us. We assume they're close to us on the evolutionary scale. This is like the theory is like they're not that far from us, or they're like the missing link or something like that. But they may be quite far from us on the evolutionary scale. They could be a very different branch that's gone a long way and might have senses that we don't even know about. Some quite unusual senses. Like I'm not an expert, and I'm not saying that I know much about this field, but I mean, maybe they have echolocation like bats do. And bats can fly through tubes and go around corners and fly incredible maze pathways to get in and out of caves. And they do it so effortlessly. And they're building up a picture of what's there by sound. Now, I mean, we just don't know whether or not a highly advanced creature that is used to stealth mode navigation, whether or not they've got better sound, which can give them a picture of what's there. I mean, I've even heard about blind people saying that they can like tap something, and they can hear the picture of a room. They can kind of, some people who are blind have learned the skill of kind of like making a noise and hearing the way it echoes around the room, and it tells them where things are in the room, and they can
That's
tell if a
amazing.
person has moved in a room. And I mean, that's just humans that are kind of like trying to make up for lost senses. Well, what if an animal has super senses that we haven't even become aware of yet, because they seem to be able to stay away from humans, and they've done it for a very long time. So therefore, maybe they have, learned the fine arts of stealth in ways we've got no idea yet. We have yet to understand. So,
You mentioned something that I had never even put any thought into before, which I'm ashamed to say. That's why I'm here. Because I've always thought about the different ranges of the light spectrum, infrared to ultraviolet, but I never thought about the different ranges of color.
mm,
When you mentioned that their range of color could be
spectrum.
completely different,
could be
than
completely
ours,
different to ours. Yeah.
I had never even put a thought into that before.
I mean, we don't
But it
see
makes
many
sense.
animals, we don't see many mammals that have thermal imaging, which you can get thermal imaging cameras, and that would be a great thing to take with you. Night vision, infrared, but also thermal, because thermal, you'll see something that's giving off heat a long way away. It'll
Right.
give it away. But you need a good quality camera. They cost thousands of pounds. So, but
yes.
there might be animals out there. Maybe Bigfoot could see further into that. Maybe he's seeing via heat, but could be seeing ultraviolet, be seeing a very high spectrum of light,
Right.
but could also be hearing in a very high frequency of hearing as well. Could be much higher than we're used to, so might be able to pick up on uh, things that are going on in a different way. Using those high frequency echolocation, it gives a much more solid picture if your brain's designed to be able to pick it up. And I mean, if a bat's brain, which is only about that big, can do it,
Right.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and dolphins have got very advanced systems for
That's
sending
true.
out sonar echolocations, and their brains are very large to be able to do it. So they've got a much bigger picture. But it's like nobody's ever got hold of a Bigfoot. So I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I think anything's possible. It
Right.
could be. It could have. Like sharks have this ability in water to sense electricity. So they can sense you by your electric current at a distance.
Yeah.
So there are senses that we don't even know whether some animals out there have got, and who knows. But I was thinking of another thing you could take on your kit as well. Little plastic baggies in case you need to take samples. You know, they're very lightweight, and maybe a bag of plaster of Paris for the classic. If you find a Bigfoot print, you're going to want to pour plaster of Paris in it and take it home.
I would.
So
I'm gonna want to. Yeah.
She'll be
you
packing
need to
that.
remember
You know I
remember to
would.
take the plaster of Paris.
I'll be carrying all the batteries and SD cards and attachments, so she can carry the plastic.
You know, and I like how you said thermal cam, because listening to a lot of people, and I'm nowhere near, you know, been in the Bigfoot community not even a year, and you know, I'm still learning a lot and listen to what everybody's saying and stuff. But it seems like one thing that would really like elevate would be like you were saying, thermal, and not just thermal, but a drone thermal, you know, having thermal on the drone, because I know they can be hiding around, you know, from what people say, you know, they find these little ledges and they hide and they peek, you know, so through the brush, so it would be very hard to pick up through the thermal. But if you're above, I mean, there could be a chance that they don't see that. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
can
I
see
mean,
the
drones
variable.
create quite a bit of noise, so I would have thought that, you know, that would kind of cause some sort of disturbance. But yeah, I mean, you got to pick your moments with using thermal, because you've got like a 25-minute battery life, so you've got to get up there and scan a whole area and then get back and land safely, which is not easy in the dark. So yeah, I mean, they're very expensive thermal cameras on drones. If you could afford a thermal drone, I would say in some ways you might be best off, before getting the thermal drone, would be to get a handheld monocle, because they record, and you can get these hunter ones which are like 2K resolution, and they're very detailed, and you can kind of zoom in on them, and they record audio, and they record you know, on an SD card. So, I mean, that would be an ideal way to say, oh, deer, oh, raccoon, oh, badger,
Right.
oh, what's that up there?
Bigfoot.
You know, and then maybe something, you know, get closer to it, reposition, is it still there? You know, and if it's coming and going, it could be something hiding from you, you know. So that would be interesting. But infrared is okay, you know, it can kind of see a little bit into the distance, but it doesn't go pow. It doesn't tell you, look, there it really is. You know, because I could be looking with an infrared night vision. If something's standing still next to a tree, I'll be looking past it. You know, it's bright and it's clear, but if something is hiding, you're not going to see it. But the thermal will just make it go, here I am, bang.
Right.
You can't hide from thermal.
Right.
So, you know, that's something to think about. But it's expensive kit. But if I was going to go and look for Bigfoot, I think I'd be using thermal.
Yeah.
interesting. About how much is one of those things that you just said? You know, with
Maybe about $5,000.
Oh, you know, no big deal.
Only pocket money.
Yeah.
But a drone's going to cost you like 10, 15 grand with thermal on it.
Thermal.
Now I know that
Yeah.
Bigfoot Odyssey said they do have a couple thermal drones, so they do have the thermal drones.
Hmm.
That'd be so awesome.
Yeah, they're
It's
just.
expensive kit, but it's good kit. Yeah.
And I think they used this. I think they used it on this last one there in March. So that's gonna be interesting to see how that works, because I haven't seen one yet. So that would be really cool. I mean, I haven't seen one in action for Bigfoot yet. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would be interested to see how a Bigfoot would react, because, I mean, being tracked by a drone and then suddenly the drone comes down close, I mean, the Bigfoot could take off, you know, and I think that it's definitely going to be something that's outside the comfort zone of most creatures, you know, deer, pigs, anything, to have a drone come close. So,
Right.
and I'm not sure that some of these thermals zoom. They don't really zoom. They kind of digitally zoom. But to get a good image up close, you're going to have to go in close. And if you're in a forest, flying with a drone, expensive drone at night, it's not an easy thing to do. So you may have to be well above the tree height, and who knows? Who knows? You know, it's going to be one of those.
So one of these right here, Leon says about 500. I've just found one online for the thermal. So that one would be on the cheaper side, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what you got to look at is the resolution. A lot of these I mean, you can buy like $100 for a little thing that plugs on your phone. You know, you just stick it in the bottom of your phone. But it's 80 pixels by 80 pixels resolution. I mean, you know, you're not even going to see somebody smile on somebody's face if you're standing in front of them with that. You know, the resolution is just not enough.
Okay.
You know, you need to have the professional stuff. I think it's a company called AZT or AZR or something, and they seem to produce very high quality stuff. They and you're talking like £5,000 really for something that's going to be doing what you want, and you've got a choice. Then when you buy it, you buy it 1-to-1, so it's like wide angle, or as most hunters want it, they want a little bit of telescopic, so it's basically it zooms in, so you know it'll be covering a large area and it'll be a bit more shaky, you know, when you're sort of doing it, but it's zooming in, you know, so you're getting that coverage, you're getting closer to something. But you have to choose that when you buy it, because I don't think they're easy to kind of swap out the lenses on those things, because they're not normal lenses, they're very specialist glass and stuff. So yeah, but you know, I would say look into this. Unfortunately, most of the great videos that will show you how good this stuff is people hog hunting, you know, on YouTube. But when you see the quality of the footage and what they're doing with this stuff, it's like, wow, you know, it is something else, you know. But unfortunately, yeah. FLIR. He says Barry Little says he's got a FLIR 1 attachment for your phone, and it's great. Well, you keep on enjoying that 80 pixels by 80 pixels. They are good. They'll tell you where something's hot. If you're like looking for an electrical fault, you can kind of point your phone and it'll show, oh look, it's that fuse there in the fuse box. You know, oh yeah. But the thermal image by itself is just a fuzz. You can't see a bloody thing with it, you know.
That's good to know.
Comparing it with something that you're going to actually be out in the field with, and you're going to be looking for an extensive distance.
Yeah, total difference. I mean, there are systems you can buy by FLIR. They're very expensive for like on boats, and they're gyro stabilized, you know, and you can kind of you have a screen and a recorder, but it's all big kit, you know, and you got a joystick and you can tell it to turn left, turn right, zoom in and all that. But that's expensive kit for boats. You're probably like 20-30 grand, maybe even more. You know, it's a lot of money's worth of stuff, you know, and it's the type of stuff you get slung on the bottom of helicopters for the police and things, you know. So you can go that high. You can go that high. And I have been told, but it's adapting it. A lot of cars are coming with thermal built into them now. And if you find a scrapped car, and you can find you can get the thermal stuff out of it, but a lot of it is built into the equipment of the car. So if you don't have the car and the car's dashboard turned on, you can't see the image. But the cameras, you know, you can get the cameras, so it might be possible to adapt those cameras cheaply if you can find a scrapped car that's got a thermal in it to go down that route. But this is like if you haven't got much money, you know. So yeah.
Well, I fit in the haven't
yeah. Holy moly! Wow.
I remember my first night vision was an X-Tank thing, and it was about this big. And it had to have an external power supply on it. And when you turned it on, it used to produce static electricity. So when you put your eye up against it, it would go against your eye, and it would like static your eye. But it was like 1950s technology, you know, and it was like £100. It worked. You had to put a camera lens on the front, so I had to glue a camera lens on at the right distance, and I had to glue a diopter on the back, you know, which is like one of these jeweler's diopters for looking at, you know, crystals and diamonds and things, and I had to tape that on the back. So that was a really good quality night vision for £100. But if you spend $200 and go in a shop and buy, you know, night vision, it's usually crap CCD, and it's got an infrared transmitter on it, you know, an infrared light on it. Without that infrared light, you can't see anything. So they're not true image intensifiers. Like this big tube thing I had was an image intensifier. And if you're prepared to spend £2,000, you get like a PVS 14. They're micro size image intensifiers. Hang on. Like this one. You know, this is it. Yeah. So this is worth about £2,000, that thing. Yeah. But it's all in, and it's military grade. You can drop it in water, it'll survive. You know, it's designed to take a bit of a beating, and it's got an infrared illuminator. So if you're indoors and there's no light at all, you can use the infrared illuminator, which I believe if I turn it on, you might see. Can you see the little red light? That little light? I turn it off, on, off, on.
Yep.
Off,
Oh,
on.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's not visible to the human eye. Only cameras can pick that up. That's not visible. So you could use that and nobody would know you're putting it out. But you don't want to do that because it gives away your presence to other night vision users because they'd spot you. It's like, you know, like there he is. So if you want to go stealth, you keep that off. But yeah, it's night vision is £2,000. They're lightweight. Put them in your pocket. And, you know,
That's
I just
awesome.
keep it slung around my neck and it's just there when you need it. You just like, you know, oh, what's that? No, that's okay. It's like, you know, if you need it. But I would love to have the next step up, which would be thermal, you know.
Right.
Wow.
So
I think we'd all love to have some good thermal gear.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We could use it for
Yeah.
all kinds of things.
That would be awesome.
Right.
That would be way cool.
We are getting down to like about the last 8 minutes of the show, so
oh, is it?
to
Okay.
ask any questions, feel free to go ahead and drop it in the chat for us. We'll be happy to ask it.
And I
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah.
to know your. Oh, go ahead.
ATN is the company. Explore Norfolk said it's called ATN. That's right, ATN. And
Okay.
I would love to go to their showrooms and just have a demo on some of their things, but it's like $5,000. Oh, $5,000. Can't justify it for the amount we do stuff. Yeah,
Wow.
you know.
Well,
You love your tech though, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. But I mean, you know, this is so handy if you're like a nighttime walker and a moocher, you know, like wandering around. I can go around looking into urbex places, and I can. Is there security? Where's the cameras? Because the cameras will be beaming out loads of infrared, but to the eye, you can't see anything. So I go, there's a camera, there's a camera, there's a camera. And I'm like, right. So I could walk right underneath all these cameras now because I can see where they're pointing, you know. So I can see that I'm not going to get, and I can navigate a good path through them. So these things are useful, you know. They kind of like give you an edge when you're out, you know.
That's pretty cool.
What's your question?
I just wanted to know your thoughts on. We've heard some people say that they are missing time when they see Bigfoot. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Do you think it's more of a humanistic, like shutdown, like they go into shock, or do you think it's something that the animal does to make that feel like they're missing time or have that experience? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I've heard stories about people saying that they believe that there are shape-shifting animals out there, like dogs, cats, big cats, things like that, and they think that the shape-shifting might be something to do with the Bigfoot thing as well. And if that's true, then I think you're talking about paranormal creatures. They're not just normal creatures, you know. So if that's true, then goodness knows what could be happening. Because you might be seeing something that is not necessarily from this dimension. But I mean, I'm not saying that because I don't have enough research in that field to kind of say it. But I've heard people talking about that type of thing. So encounters with strange creatures, encounters with fairy folk, encounters with aliens, encounters with Bigfoot. You know, everyone says, well, how can they be out there? You know, because people would have found them by now. Well, maybe they slip in and out of dimensions. That's a possibility. You know, maybe they're not just, you know, in a little cave somewhere and, you know, scrambling together bits of food here and there. And it's a possibility. You know, it's a wild possibility, but it is a possibility. And I think that if there is a paranormal realm there, these creatures could be telepathic. They could be slipping in and out of dimensions. And yeah, I mean, there could be an abduction element which could be going on. And some of these things, I mean, some creatures could be screen memories, as well. So if you end up sort of having a weird experience or a negative experience coming back, and you don't know quite why you're feeling so negative, it's maybe because you don't remember the whole of your experience. Because it's like that guy who said he saw one and he's like, right, I can't ever go up there again. It's like, well, why?
Right.
Because why would he think that? Is it because something has kind of like put that in his mind, like don't come back, and frightened him, or did something happen he doesn't remember?
And we
Because it
have,
seems a bit.
we have cell memory, so our bodies will record things that our brains don't, and so I can very much, that makes sense to me, because your body can record trauma where your mind doesn't remember.
Well,
yeah,
and it's funny you talk about that, because when I was with Tex, he was talking about how they lost track of 6 hours, and when they went back to check the footage, there was footage of them running in the woods and turning around, or the film was showing that there was no one around. And he says, we were together the whole time, so how would the camera pan around there and be no one there? Who was holding the camera? Why was the camera running through the woods? We were never running through the woods. It's like, he's like, but we lost, track of 6 hours, so, and I just think that was pretty interesting. It's like, how do you lose 6 hours? And then going back and look at the film, because you were filming the whole time, and then it shows you running through the forest, in a panic, from what it sounded like, and then pan around and you don't even see your buddy you're with, that you were with the whole time. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Leon says, do you guys agree with Bigfoot being a global creature?
There
it is.
Sorry.
Are you going to answer that? do you want me to answer every question, Joy?
The thought process. I mean, for me, I think
I've heard of them all over the globe, but yeah, I've heard of them from very many countries. They've got different names in different countries.
Yeah, exactly. Calling it different things.
So I believe there's a lot more out there, not just Bigfoot, but I think there's a lot more out there that we have no idea about because we haven't discovered them yet.
It's a weird Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like, people talk about massive sea creatures, like Loch Ness monster, and some people say, well, maybe it's a ghost. Well, okay, maybe it's a ghost then, but why don't we see dinosaurs? Why don't people see dinosaurs?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
people don't look up.
Yeah,
like, I heard a noise, I looked up, and it was a Tyrannosaurus Rex going over the top of me,
That'll blow the lid off the whole paranormal.
Yeah.
Somebody did ask earlier, though, the first question we had up there. Somebody was asking what your first experience was, whether it's paranormal, any kind of experience.
Worst, did you say?
The first
encounter.
Oh, first, yeah. My very first encounter was seeing a UFO on the side of a mountain. It was like a triangular sort of like light. It was shimmering on its edges. And at first, when I came around this mountain road, I was driving a car and I came around the mountain road, looked across, and I could see this thing in front of a mountainside. So the hill was coming down and there were trees at the bottom. And this thing was above the trees, between the hill and the trees. So I just kind of thought it must be a fire. Now we get a lot of fires in the South Wales valleys. People set the mountains on fire, and you get loads of trees going, and the whole side of the mountain will go on fire. It's something you do get to see, and then sometimes when you are driving across the top of a mountain road, you'll see a fire 10 mountains over, so it's something you can't see from your own home or your own valley because you're too much in the valley. But when you get up on the top of the mountain, you can see way off. You see these things. So to me, my brain was kind of trying to register it as what is this? Is this a fire? And I was going, well, it doesn't quite look like a fire. and then I was going, well, it seems to be in front of the mountain and behind the trees, and I kind of knew that there wasn't a lot of distance there because I know that area a bit. I'd walked it once, and yeah, it was just a strange thing. And as I kept driving, eventually trees came past me, and I thought, I'm going to not be able to see this because if I drive down, I'm not going to be able to see up and over to where this thing was. So I thought, I'll stop and I'll have a look. So I stopped the car and I reversed it back up. I mean, this is a lonely, there's no cars around at all. So I could safely, reverse the car up the road and got back into line of sight, and nothing was there. It had gone. So it was just, seconds of something I saw. And what was weird was, for me, as a first sighting of something, I'd read books for many years, and I had, compendiums of ghost stories and all these sorts of things, and I found them all quite interesting, but I didn't know whether I believed in that sort of stuff. Quite atheistic, and didn't believe in anything, so kind of like, oh well, it's just stories, but great fun stories, and that's the way I treated them. It's just like, they're just great stories, great fun stories. And after seeing that, I would have thought my brain would have kicked into gear and gone, wow, this is really weird. What was that? But I didn't. What I did is I carried on driving, did a load of work I had to do, drove back home, forgot about it for a week. And then when I was just doing something very normal in the middle of the day, it was like somebody had literally like chucked a bucket of water in my face. And suddenly I went, whoa, whoa. It's like the shock realization of, hang on, what was that thing I saw a week ago when I was driving across the mountain? And why am I only thinking about it now? That was weird.
Yeah.
So that in a strange way, I've never gone to have hypnotic regression or anything because I don't want to taint or come out with something that may not be real from that experience. But I cannot reconcile how a week later I had the reaction that I should have had on the night, which is, this is weird. And that was a delayed reaction.
Right.
Weird.
That is weird.
So that was my first experience. And it was the fact that there was this, the delay was quite odd to me. And that's what really started me off, and kind of like I got really heavily into the UFO research then, and looking into things because of that one little event. I've had a lot since. I've seen loads of stuff since, but that was my first.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I've had one of some of the weirdest things I've ever had. I saw right, and I question my sanity on this. Is like, I'm driving down the road, and I see the moon fly through the sky and go down behind a mountain, and I'm just like, what? And I'm like, what just happened? And it's just like, so I'm sort of like questioning myself, pinching myself, like, I'm awake, I'm not feeling weird, I'm not like, my brain's not spinning out. I just saw that. And then I'm like, so I'm thinking, I'm driving down the road and I look away and I look back, and then the moon is in the sky. And it's like, it wasn't there. Now the moon is in the sky. So I'm like, right, I'm going to keep my eyes on you now as I'm driving. So of course I have to stop and look left and right, but the moon is still there. And I'm driving, looking at the moon, like obsessing, like, the moon, I'm going to keep my eyes on the moon, I'm going to keep my eyes on the moon. And then later on, I had to look away for a minute and look back, moon's gone.
What?
And I'm just like, I'm in the twilight zone right now. That's what I am in the flipping twilight zone right now. I've had weird shit like that happen to me over the years, and I just don't know where that's coming from, what that's about, what that means. I don't know. I just hope it means I'm not.
Everything.
It makes you question the nature of reality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Full stop.
And
Yes.
Jamie said something pretty interesting. Different species are discovered all the time, or animals thought to be extinct. So I mean, there's no telling if there's still. We haven't even discovered all the ocean yet.
Exactly.
Very little. So there's just no telling. What else could be out there?
That's true. And Bigfoot could just be one of those unfound mysteries.
Right under our noses the whole time. Yeah.
There's a lot of stories dating back a very long time, and they go by different names all over the place. I mean, what do they call it? The ones in the snow.
Yetis.
Oh, the Yeti.
Yetis. Yeah.
Hmm.
They make the best coolers, by the way, that I've used.
Outside of my budget, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
It's all
It wasn't mine though. It wasn't mine. I was like, I've never bought
Borrowed
one.
it.
They're too expensive.
Well, you know, we are here at the end of the hour, and I do, again, I started off the show with this, and I want to point it out again. I want to appreciate you taking this time with us to come on the show,
problem.
talk to us, because, you know, again, it never fails. You just leave us going, I didn't think of this.
Yeah.
That just blew my mind, this thought process, this approach. The color spectrum is still stuck on me, you know. I'm still trying to wrap my head around they have a totally different color spectrum. And the information you gave us is really valuable, and we're going to take it and we're going to utilize as much of it as we can as we proceed with not just pursuing Bigfoot, but everything else we do on our channel.
Mhm.
I mean, we do exploring videos, we do paranormal sessions, we do a lot of different stuff. This information that we learn doesn't have to be just tied to Bigfoot, but it can be tied to everything we do on a daily basis. Just keeping our eyes open while we're down and driving down the street and keeping an eye on that moon. Make sure that moon doesn't disappear on us, you know. It's things like that where
Yeah.
if you're too caught up in your own little world and you're too busy worrying about one thing or another, you could totally miss that even happen right in front
Exactly.
of your own eyes.
Yeah. I think that when you've kind of had some sort of like awakening experience, then I think it's kind of like the spaghetti comes out, and it's hard to put the spaghetti back. Then as you can't, it just doesn't want to go back. You know, it's like, yeah. So I think if you're looking for Bigfoot and you believe, you know, if you believe, but not from a kind of like, I want to believe. No, you believe because you've had experiences. You know that the paranormal is real. If you know that these things are possible, I think it gives you a far better chance of kind of seeing something, you know, because I think people are very closed off, and they I want to believe types rather than I believe types. You know, I think they find it harder. I think the windows that open from these strange realities, which show you these things, I think that kind of knows when you're tuned in, when you're kind of able to see, you know, and it's far easier for people who are believers to kind of get close to that. So yeah, I'd go in with an open heart and hopefully a belief, you know. So good luck.
Thank you.
Again, I can't thank you enough. I mean, every time we sit down and talk to you, it's just
Yeah, yes, exactly. Just kind of
It really is.
wonderful.
and for all the new faces in our chat, thank you for coming over and
Thank
thank
you.
you for joining the stream
Thank you,
and
guys.
watching this conversation. It really means a lot to us because,
Yay.
like I said earlier, we're not just about Bigfoot, and Bigfoot is a portion of who we are, but we do a lot of exploring, we do a lot of paranormal, and we're learning there's connections between everything. There's
Yeah.
connections between every kind of thing that we're approaching, and it's just
There is.
recognizing it, it's keeping our eyes open and being able to say there's a possibility. You know, it's out there. It's just a matter of when you're going to find it, not if you're going to find it. And you know, we're a new channel. We're really working hard at growing and kind of sharing what we pick up on as we grow. So everybody in the chat, everybody following us, thank you for your ongoing support as well, because
Yeah, guys,
it
thank
really
you.
helps push us to keep going forward and we'll keep working harder every day. So
Yep.
and also thank you to Rooted Expeditions over here, because he's pushed us quite a bit too. He's actually the one who actually got us started on the whole Bigfoot conversation
Yes.
from his show, Let's Talk Exploring.
Yeah.
You know, all of the guests that he's had on there and the people that we've been honored enough to have conversations with, it was just a catalyst. It just started it, and we took off, and we're running like crazy with it. So thank you, everybody on the panel and everybody in the chat. So
And could I just say as well, if anyone wants to kind of like see some crazy stuff, these guys put me onto a video about Bigfoot. just like, I was, what? Because that video, I can't remember what it's called. I've got it in my folder somewhere, but I'm just like, this can't be real, because this is just too good. You know, there was like faces of, and these Bigfoot were like looking into the camera and like making expressions, and I'm like, hey, they've got to be working with some of the best Hollywood special effects people making up these rubber masks or doing some CGI, because if those two things ain't happening and this is real, why is the world not talking about this? Because that's some damn clear footage. That was crazy, that video you sent me.
We'll post the link over on our community tab once we pull it up. I think it was called something like the Bigfoot
Encounter with Bigfoot, I think it was. Or
Yeah.
discovering Bigfoot or encountering Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's all that about? I just couldn't believe it. I was like, surely people should be talking about this more. Why am I not hearing loads about this? You know, this is like as big a bombshell, as far as I'm concerned, is like this stuff that they've been talking about with the UFOs and recently.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, it's like it's that big. Yeah, crazy stuff.
The lid is being blown off a lot of things.
It is.
So we just keep learning.
Yeah.
Keep an open mind and keep pursuing it.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. People are going to see
Yeah.
it. So.
Yep.
So check out that video, folks, because yeah, they're all wanting the link now. Yeah.
We'll put it in the community tab.
I'm working on it right now.
Yeah.
This is not 1970s Super 8 Super 8 camera of some bloke that could be in a fuzzy suit running around. It's not like that. This is the next level.
Yeah.
This is very modern.
This right here, you can it's actually free to watch on YouTube. I think it's free. It looks like
it's
free.
on YouTube?
Yeah, here you go, guys.
I think there was a trailer for it.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah.
There we go. That should be it right there.
Mm.
But yeah, it's very interesting. But Matt, thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you're healing. It seems like everything's really going well, and hope for a speedy recovery too. And so you could take that $6 million Matthew to a $10 million Matthew or $1 billion.
That video is on there, but it's not available in the UK. So if you're in the US, you get to see it. So
yeah.
Okay.
There's ways. We'll at least make sure that the title is there, and you can look for different ways to find the title.
Yeah, we'll get there.
So.
But thank you again, everybody. We really appreciate everyone coming out to support the channel and speaking with Matt from the Secret Vault. Thank you again to Rooted Expeditions, Zach, and we will see you guys next week on Learning Bigfoot.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Barry, for modding tonight. Thank you.